Hey guys, Scott Patton here. This is my top baits for November. Honestly, November is another month that you could probably fish with a lot of different baits, but these are the ones that I am for sure going to have tied on and have on the deck. And I'm gonna go through what I'll use, and I will also go through what part of the lake and stuff and type of cover that's going to work best in. So, I'm going to start out, if it's cloudy or rainy, of course, you're going to start out with the top water bait. Now, just because it's cloudy and rainy and starting going into November, especially the later part of November, it doesn't mean that a top water bait is going to be your best pick, okay? Because sometimes that water is cool enough or the fishes are not in a mood to chase or hit a top water bait. So you got to watch that, and if you're out fishing for 2 or 3 days, by not thinking that just because it's early in the morning, I got to throw a top water. Because there's times where you could be throwing, if it's windy or something like that, you could throw a spinner bait or something like that and catch fish better than you will a top water, just because those fish don't want to break that surface and chase the lure. But I know all through September, October, a lot of times I was throwing a frog, and the frog is still good this time of year, but we're losing a lot of our grass, so that bite's going to get, that window for that bite's going to get smaller and smaller. This time of year, I like to go towards the walking bait, and this is Strike King Sexy Dog, probably my favorite walking bait there is, and also probably in a favorite color. But I do throw it in several different colors. Throw it in green gizzard, I'll throw it in clear. It just depends on what type of day I got. Now, if it's a cloudy day, overcast, early morning, you're not going to beat this bone, okay? And I always put a tail feather. I tie up my own feathers and put a feather on it. I think it just gives it more action, especially if you got some wind in the water and that bait, you're walking that bait and it stops. That thing's going to be dancing around the water as you let it pause, and that tail just gives it a little bit more lifelike action. So I really recommend, if you don't have the tail feathers, you can buy them, or you can buy some feathers and stuff, you guys, and tie your own. But I really think it increases a lot of strikes versus not having it on there. Now, I would throw this off in a lot of different areas, and you can throw this over grass, you can throw it on shallow flats, around stumps, around laydowns, you can throw it on bluff walls. So don't limit yourself to one type of cover, or it has to be shallow to catch fish on a walking bait this time of year, because even though you may be in 10, 12 foot of water on a bluff wall, those fish may be shallow. They may be only 4 or 5 foot deep, looking for bait or bluegill or even shad, eating algae off from that rock wall. So, you don't limit yourself to one type of cover or shallow water to throw a top water, because especially if you're fishing a lake that has smallmouth and stuff, this time of year that walking bait can really shine for a real good smallmouth like too. Now, I'll throw this on normally 17 to 20 pound test mono, or I'll throw it on like 40 or 50 pound braid, and I probably lean more towards 40 pound. That way I can make longer casts with it and stuff like that. And there's times where you can walk this thing really fast and get a reflex strike, and there's a lot of times the way I like to fish is I like to walk it and stop it, walk it and stop it. I see a lot of guys when I'm guiding that they don't like to walk it and stop it. They want to just keep moving this bait moving, where all your bites may be coming from it sitting still. So you just got to see how aggressive they want it. You may want to finesse it. Like if I'm throwing around, if I see a big dark spot down there, I know there's a stump down there, I'll throw it beyond it. I'll walk it up to it. Even when I'm bringing it to the bait, I don't rush it where I see the stump there. I don't rush it to the stump, okay? Because I'm visualizing the bass sitting there on that stump. So I'm gonna throw it well past it, because I want him to see this bait coming to him, okay? So he may come from a distance to hit that bait, but if you walk it real fast past him, he may not eat that thing, especially if he's not. He may have already ate, he may not be hungry, he may just not be real active. So a lot of times if I walk that thing and stop it, he sees that thing coming, I walk it and stop it, and he's getting closer and closer to this stump, it's getting in his territory, and I walk it and stop it some more, and let that bait sit over top that stump. I'm talking about for 5-10 seconds, that bass will explode on that bite. So I'm making that fish bite, you guys. So I'm not, a lot of times when you're feeding, these fish may not be real aggressive, so you can make them bite by the way you present that bait to those fish. So keep that in mind, especially when you're throwing top water baits, you guys. Alright, so the next bait I'm going to talk about is throwing a spinner bait. Now this is a 1/4 ounce spinner bait. You know, any of you guys that follow me, you know, this time of year is when I really love to throw that spinner bait. This is the blue, white, and chartreuse color. I got it in tandem gold. Now, sometimes I'll throw it in, you know, tandem nickel, or just play around with it. Sometimes the color blades do matter, but one thing I really think that makes a big difference this time of year is I use a turtle shell blade on that, you guys, and I'm throwing that 1/4 ounce. So what I'm trying to do is, if I'm throwing this over, you know, over stumps or around the lay down or even over submerged grass, I want to throw that spinnerbait out there, and I want to reel it. So I'm reeling that thing just subsurface, probably about a foot, foot and a half underneath the water. This really shines, and you're going to catch way more fish on it on a cloudy, the nastiest days you got. If it's cloudy and windy and stuff like that, that's when I'm going to throw this bait, because for some reason, when it's like that, them fish will jump up out of that cover and eat that bait. And that's the whole idea behind a 1/4 ounce, because I want to keep it 10 inches underneath the water. I want to move it real slow. I'm throwing on heavy line, 17, 20 pound test line, because you catch big fish with this thing. But that slow retrieve up high in the water column is what triggers a lot of these strikes on these nasty days. So keep that in mind too, you guys, and it's definitely something I would have tied on all the way through November. This bait even catch me when we move into early December and stuff too. But a 1/4 ounce spinnerbait, this homemade spinnerbait, I'll make myself, but you can buy a lot of them like that, resembles that. But 1/4 ounce, bigger blades, either Colorado or the turtle shell, is what I recommend, okay guys? All right, and the third bait I'm gonna move into, you guys, this time here in November. I've done well in tournaments and stuff on it over the years. Where I used to guide on Kentucky Lake, you know, I fished them a lot, vibrating baits. You know, anytime this time of year, a vibrating bait's gonna catch fish. I've been throwing different ones. The ones, my boat's covered up right now. It's raining outside, so I didn't get everything out. But this time of year, for some reason, a chrome rattle trap and 1/2 ounce has always done real well for me. It makes a lot of noise. And I'll throw this thing up on the flats, around flats where creek channels will drop off. It's been real good. And another one that I've been fishing a lot here lately, this year, and I love this bait in the fall. This is one a friend of mine, Jeremy, farmer, makes. It's called a hyper blade. This little bait right here, he's got lead inside of this thing, and you can cast this little bait a mile. It's probably hard to see that. I'll get her to show that later, but it's probably about the size of, say, like a 1/4 ounce most vibrating baits. But this thing weighs more than a 1/4 ounce, of course. And I'll throw this thing up on flats, and you can sling it a mile. I like throwing on probably about 15, maybe 17 pound line, and I'll throw it way up on flats and burn it back. I'll let it fall to the bottom, jerk it up and retrieve it, just trying to get reaction strikes. So if you haven't tried that little bait, I'm telling you what, the hyper blade that Jeremy makes has put a lot of fish in the boat for me already this fall. But it's just now getting November. I'll go and do some videos fishing this little bait, so we'll show y'all how this thing works in the water too. So another bait, you guys, you gotta have them tied on in November is going to be a jerk bait. I've got hundreds of jerk baits, but I'm always going to probably have 2 different colors tied on, and this is something just a solid white color, and then I'm having something more natural looking, something with some flash in it, depending on the type of day. Now, if it's a cloudy day like we've got outside right now, I'm going to throw the more white, the more bold color. And if it's a sunny, clear day, it's hard to see, but this bait here, I can see through it. But on a clear, sunny day, I'm going to usually throw these more natural color baits, something translucent and stuff like that. I'm going to throw these on probably 12 to 15 pound line. And honestly, I'll probably throw them more on 12 pound fluorocarbon than I will 15. But you can throw these on 15. I'm fishing these mostly, you guys, on like in ditches, on flats and stuff like that, along riprap banks are good, and on channel banks where I'm coming out of the backs of the creeks, because all lakes the water's dropping right now. So these first channel banks coming off, and that might have like a channel bank or a bluff wall. Those are the areas that first section, that first bluff wall is where I'm going to be fishing this bait. it's good, on you're gonna have cold front days and stuff like that, you guys, this time, in November. So that's a real good bait when the water starts getting cool or we have a tough day out there. Another time that I actually throw this thing a lot, you guys, is more towards the end of November when the water temperature probably getting around 60 to 55 degrees, and a lot of those balls are bait moving out into the mouth of the creeks and stuff like that. I may see them on my active target and everything, see them fish underneath it, but this is a good suspending bait. I mean, I may be in 15, 20 foot of water, and I can throw that jerk bait because it suspends. I'll work that thing underneath that bait, and I can catch a lot of fish doing that too. So later in the month of November, you start seeing a lot of balls bait move out, and then that's when you want to pick up that jerk bait, and you can cast it. It's, you can jerk it, pause it. Sometimes you want to just keep jerking it all the way back to the boat. So we experiment with the retrieve on that too. It's almost kind of like a top water bait is. You got to experiment with it and figure out what them fish are wanting, and so they'll react to it. Okay, guys, another bait, and speaking of towards the end of November, but I'm catching some fish on it now, is an A-rig. There's all kinds of A-rigs on the market. This is something that I just put together myself. But anyways, I usually go with smaller blades. I got about 3.5 inch swimmers on here. You can go different sizes. I can stick with the shad pattern. Now I would throw this thing more at the mouth of the creeks and stuff like that, on channel banks, off of little channel drops and stuff like that. Main lake, over the deeper grass and stuff like that. So as the water cools off and the bait starts migrating back out of the back of the creeks and stuff, you guys, again, you may be in that 10 to 15 foot zone. The A-rig is a great bait to throw that time of year, and all of you are probably familiar with it, but it's just, it takes a little bit more work, but it'll catch them. I've caught big fish, and I've caught numbers of small fish on it. I'm talking about 1-2 pounders and stuff, so it's getting those schools. Because the later, as colder the water gets, you guys, the more these fish are going to group up. Okay, it's just something they do in the winter time. They group up, and so the later in the month, the more. That's why the A-rig gets so good in the winter time, because these fish are grouping up. So depending on the lake you're throwing, I would normally throw this with 25-pound test fluorocarbon. I've thrown on 20 before, but I normally like 25-pound test myself. I throw it on a 25-pound Seaguar. You can throw it on braid. I used to throw this thing on real heavy braid, but I've gotten to where I really want to throw it on probably 50-pound test braid anymore. That way I can make a longer cast with it and it's easier to fish. One key thing, guys, is throw a rod that's long enough and heavy enough to handle this bait, because you can catch double 4s on it. I've had double 6-pounders on it. So the A-rig is something you definitely want to have tied on and rigged up and kept on a boat. So I ain't gonna go fishing without it. Okay, one other bait that I'm gonna keep, I always keep tied on, is a glide bait, you guys. I know I've talked to you guys a lot about glide baits this year. I've really gotten into them real heavy this year. I love fishing them. They catch a lot of fish. You can catch fish over deep water with them. You can catch fish in shallow water with them. And I've been, here in the last few weeks, I've really got hooked up with this, in the last few weeks I got hooked up with Jeremy Farmer. And this is a glide bait that he makes. It's called the Jailbreaker. This thing is fantastic. You see how real that looks. Like I said, I have down here to post a picture of it. But he's got them in a lot of different colors. I'll throw it in a bone and everything too. Now I myself, I'll throw this on either 20 or 25-pound test Seaguar. I do put a split ring on it. But this is a great glide bait, you guys, and I've caught a lot of fish on it. This one here kind of suspends as you work it. You can weight the hooks and make it sink a little bit faster, but this is a fantastic bait, and we got some footage coming up that I'll show y'all soon as far as the fish that we've been catching with this bait. But I'm gonna throw this bait on probably a 7.3, 7.4 power rod. I want something pretty heavy because I want to be able to sling it, and I want to be able to hook and fight the fish that I get that hit this thing. But you're going to catch fish all different sizes. It's 7.5 inch glide bait, and I'm going to, I'm going to throw it up on the flats, and then I'm going to also fish it on creek channel bluff walls and stuff like that coming out of the creek, kind of like what I was talking about with the jerk bait and stuff like that. So there's not really a wrong place to throw this thing, but I would tend to fish this in water probably 8 feet or less is what I normally do. this shallow running version he's got. He's got some that sink that you can fish in deeper water and stuff, guys. But make sure you got one of these tied on, because you could catch a fish of a lifetime. And again, you guys, I'll have Jeremy's information on here where you can contact him if you want orders one of these. And he's, like I say, he can send you pictures and some videos he's got too, and that way you can see the action of them. But I really love them. So, guys, I hope this will help you out in the month of November. I wish we'd been on the water to film this, but it's been raining. I just haven't had time to get out there here lately. Guys, I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, and until next time, we'll see you on the water.